Hi and welcome to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nusky and I'm here with David Oswald. How are you, David?
I'm doing tremendous, Rick, and I'm feeling real good tonight. Looking forward to talking about some things.
Excellent, excellent. Look, David is the CEO of riversofincome.com, and we're going to be talking about a topic today that is essential for the success of your business. However, so many of us get it so wrong. But before we deep dive into that part of the call, as is the case, David, we normally peel one layer back and talk more about the people, in this case your good self, about you. Is that okay?
That's fine, Rick. Ask away.
Yeah, well, look,
any question you like.
So tell us a little bit about David. What's his thing? Where is he? And what's he like doing in his downtime when he's not focused on work?
If I can speak about myself in the third person, Rick,
Sure.
David right now, David right now, he's at a point where he is just looking to optimize every day. And what I mean by that is optimize doesn't always mean have the biggest day in terms of monetary. It doesn't mean necessarily, having the biggest day in terms of, anything in particular. It just means when you wake up in the morning, having the option to do what you want and saying, you know what, for these next 12 hours or 24 hours span, I'm going to create the best possible life for myself. And it may not be anything like it was yesterday, and it might not be anything like tomorrow, but I'm going to make it happen today, and I'm going to do based on what my body is telling me to do and what my spirit's telling me to do. And that's a real good place to be in right now for me.
That's fantastic. So focus on balance is important for you?
Definitely balance, but also knowing when to kick it into gear and kind of having a sixth sense, if you want to call it that, as to when it's time to really pay attention to certain parts of my business and also pay attention to certain parts of my life. And I've developed that over time. I know a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we kind of rely on instinct a little bit. We kind of playing the game of, what does it feel like right now? What should I be doing? I've just applied that not only to my business life, but also to my personal life, because I feel that that's just as important, if not more so.
Fantastic. So where are you located for the audience?
I'm in the United States of America, and I happen to be in the great state of New Jersey right now. I also spend a lot of time in Florida, down at the southern tip as well.
Fantastic. So it's nice weather over there at the moment?
Right now, we're in the best part of the year in terms of weather in New Jersey, and we got those spring temperatures, maybe 70, 72 degrees on most days, and
Nice.
a little bit of rain today, but we can deal with that.
Yeah, well, look, I think this is all relevant because, we talk about knowing about the mindset of people and them looking after their self, and I think environment has a lot to do with that. Would you agree with that the environment that you live in makes a difference to the success within your business?
Oh, Rick, that's a great point. I don't even think anybody's ever really brought that up to me before, but that's one of the main reasons I decide to kind of disappear during the winters here in New Jersey, because you grow up with a lot of snow. You grow up with some bad winters where,
Yeah.
you walk out and, the snow's up to your knees, and you can deal with that for a period of time. But at some point, it kind of hits you and you say, if you're thinking in terms of common sense, you say, hey, if I have the ability and I've created a business and a lifestyle that allows me to be somewhere else for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, whatever period of time I want to do it, why not just disappear for a while and go where, my level of energy is higher. You literally get more hours per day when you're in an environment where, you can maximize the sunlight and maximize the time in the day, and you just feel better overall. So I decided to start spending winters in places where the weather's a heck of a lot nicer, such as Florida or Texas or California.
And even so early into this call, David, the takeaway that the My Future Business audience could take was that having that freedom of time and place is such an essential thing to get that feeling or that experience of balance.
Beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I don't say these things to kind of say, it's an exclusive thing to do. Anybody that creates a lifestyle like this, and I'm not talking about being ultra rich, I'm just talking about having the ability to go out and make decisions that allow you to work wherever you want to work and do things like that. it really wouldn't matter the location where you're at. Really wouldn't even matter the country in most cases. So, if you can find a way to first make that step towards going towards a direction in your lifestyle and your business where you're open to those ideas, and then you start to purposely create that, that's just one of the advantages that comes with it. And it's open to anybody, at least where I'm from, it's open to anybody that really wants it and wants to pursue it and make the changes necessary to make it happen.
You mean, because I've learned, that money's nice, but it's not everything. And I think a lot of business owners get on this train thinking that, I'll leave a corporate environment and go and do this myself, and I'll make truckloads of cash. And even if they do make truckloads of cash, David, they often feel a little void inside, meaning that, yes, I've achieved my goal of making all this cash, however, I'm unfulfilled. So do you, do you value, obviously that the cash is great, but that ability to say, look, this is more than that.
Rick, I had a great experience when I was younger, and you just made a great point. When I was in my early 20s, I had gotten into the mortgage industry at a time where the mortgage business was very good in the United States. And I started working 12-hour days. I would wake up early in the morning about, for me, early as 8 o'clock. I'd be in the office by 9. I'd have a suit on, and we would literally work till 9 o'clock at night. It was a 12-hour day, and it was normal to us. And in that time frame, I was in my early 20s, making $300,000-$400,000 a year, and thinking that was the answer. And all I could think about was, okay, if I'm making three or 400,000 now, how can I get to 500? How can I get to 600? It was all about increasing the dollars and increasing the zeros behind what I was making. But I was finding whether I was making, it didn't matter what I was making. I was finding that my day was still very structured. I was limited in what I could do. And it really was fulfilling to make that money, especially at that age, but it wasn't everything. In other words, I started soon after that to look into how can things actually be better than this, because the way I'm heading right now, it's not a healthy mental environment for me,
And I think this dovetails quite nicely into the topic that we're just about to go into, which is how to pay attention to what matters in your business. But can I just, go to the left of that for a moment, and we'll come back to that.
Sure.
I've noted here that on your website about your speaking presence on stages, and I'd like to just delve into that a little bit more and learn a little bit about where you speak and what you speak about.
Definitely. Well, what happened for me was I told that little story about, myself in my early 20s being in the mortgage industry. And I did that for a good 5-6 years. And I was able to put away some money and start to think about where do I want to go next. And it afforded me the ability to have some time to make a decision on really what I want to do instead of just what do I have to do. And one of the things that I got used to was we grew a company in the mortgage industry from, really myself and my partner into 72 people at its peak. And in the mornings, I would come into a pretty live boardroom, and a lot of times we'd get up there and I'd make a speech to the office to kind of fire up the salespeople and to keep the administrative people with their heads up and feeling good about what they were doing. And in a way, I was doing these little mini motivational speeches for 10 or 15 minutes in the morning. And I kind of said, you know what? I like doing this. I like being in front of the room and setting the tone for the day and kind of getting people in a frame of mind that maybe they were not in before. And I said, what if I could do more of this? What if I could get up in front of rooms and talk to people about different entrepreneurial topics? During that time frame, I was also starting to invest in real estate investing, and I got involved in the short sale business, which was a big thing over here in the States for a while as well. And I got an opportunity where people started asking me, hey, would you like to speak to my group? And over here we have real estate investment groups, and people would ask me that ran these groups, Dave, I heard you did a speech over at this group. Would you like to come out to our group in a different state? And sometimes I would travel by airplane. Sometimes I would travel just by a car drive, and I would get up in front of these real estate investment groups and spend sometimes as much as an hour and a half to 2 hours speaking to a group. and sometimes even offering the chance to buy a product or things like that as well. So I've incorporated speaking to real estate investment groups as well as talking on other topics such as the topic we'll talk about tonight, and also time creation, time management, outsourcing your life, doing things that make your lifestyle a little more fun. So I speak on a lot of different things.
Yeah, wow. Look, and it's really, it gives me great satisfaction when I speak with somebody like yourself who has just evolved over time to suddenly realize there is something that I'm passionate about. There's something that I love to do, and it's an amazing opportunity that I have to actually use that passion. So, and I guess this is an important point. Coming back now to the how to pay attention to what matters in your business. Let's start talking about that in terms of having the right level of passion for something.
Yeah, big time. And Rick, that's probably one of the first things that you have to decide upon when you're choosing what it is that you want to spend a lot of your time on as an entrepreneur. It's not always going to be the best thing for you to pursue the new hot shiny object, the thing that you think is going to make you the most money. You should really look into what have you done in the past, where could it have been more enjoyable, and where do my skill sets lie? In other words, when I have some free time, what do I like to do? And besides watching the television, or where do I find that my skills lie? Do I have a talent as an artist of some kind? Do I draw well? Do I have a business that could be maybe right now it's a hobby, but could it actually start to make me some money? Am I very technical? Do I have maybe a background with computers? Could I turn that into an online business? Could I be, a person that people go to for SEO work or things like that I still might enjoy? Am I outspoken? Do I like to get up in front of groups and speak publicly? Would I rather do it more in a podcast setting, such as where we're doing it right now, or maybe a webinar setting where I don't have to travel or speak live in front of a group, but maybe I can do it in front of, an audience on the internet. So you just have to kind of think about, where's my skill set? What do I think that I might enjoy? And how can I test it and see, hey, is this really for me or not? And that might require, stepping out and doing something that's uncomfortable because, maybe changing a little bit, because I've heard it said that the only people who like change are babies with wet diapers, Rick.
Yeah. And I would generally tend to agree with that. Robert Kiyosaki's four-quadrant process, where it talks about business owner, investor, technician. Do you think it is actually possible for, the employee, the technician type of person, to move from one quadrant to another to actually being a successful business owner?
I think beyond a shadow of a doubt that's true. And the technician maybe who is an introverted person who doesn't enjoy necessarily the other parts, maybe that would make that person a better entrepreneur. That person has some choices. Maybe that person says, I need to now put the team around me that can allow me to succeed at a higher level. Or maybe I decide that it might be a skill level that's untapped, or maybe I've never had the opportunity to explore. Sometimes we're good at things, Rick, that we never got the chance to explore, or we just assumed we would not like. We always looked at it and said, oh, that person could do that well because they're just a dynamic type of individual. But we never took the chance to try to do it ourselves, and we learned to like it. And I've had that experience in raising up other speakers, people that really were very introverted. And I decided, you know what, you have a skill set, you have something that could really bring value to one of my seminars. I know you don't speak, but let me show you a couple techniques and a couple tricks of the trade. And all I ask of you is find a way to work up the guts to get up there and give a short 10 or 15 minute presentation. I've had that happen with individuals, and then they went on to love the speaking part so much and the things that come with it, the attention, the adoration, etc., that they actually started to like it and do it a lot more on their own.
And it becomes a rush and almost an addiction that they can't get away from. That once they've done it once, they've felt it, and they've really felt the experience and couldn't get enough of it. That's a great story.
Exactly. That's what happens to some people. And that person would have had no clue. They would have never done it on their own. They would have never assumed it was for them. But that person finds out that it's something that they like because, I give him credit for taking the chance and agreeing to get up there and do something that was uncomfortable.
David, I'm looking at there's just so much good content on your website, which people can find at riversofincome.com. But coming back to the how to pay attention to what matters in your business. Now, I have seen so many people, and early on, I was one of these people. I found it was very difficult to, you've got systems and projects and all these moving parts online, and then you've got all the documentation offline, and then the management of teams, and this is really going to start driving into the core of the call today. How do you get around overwhelm when you're a new or a beginner business owner?
Rick, I feel in some ways fortunate that the whole social media thing started really. Let's just give it a date. Let's say sometime around 2007, 2008, where it almost became essential that you had to start to really invest in some form of social media aspect, whether it was at least having a Twitter account, having a Facebook business account. Like, you really had to start to invest some time in that, or at least have a presence. And I'm fortunate in that I think I had business success before any of that occurred. So I'm able to view some of the world in a scope where I could say to myself, you know what, those things, social media, etc., the online presences, those things are great, but you necessarily don't have to make that the main focus of your business in order to still make pretty good money and still be successful. So sometimes when I find myself drifting off into investing a lot of time and energy into these things which don't seem to result in money right away, such as social media, I can say to myself, what really matters today? In other words, if my goal is to make blank amount of dollars in a month or a year, am I on pace for that? And if I'm not, I'm able to look at what are the money-making exercises that allow me to get to at least that front goal, so that if I had extra time or extra energy, or if I wanted to outsource to a team, I could have that taken care of, such as the social media aspects, taken care of without me investing so much time myself. And I say all of that just because I see a lot of people getting involved in things that aren't necessarily money-making activities, but they're spending enormous amounts of energy and time in things such as creating very intricate videos, having an Instagram post daily, tweeting 7 to 10 times a day, updating their Facebook statuses, profiles, and sending out Facebook messages on a regular basis, all of which can be done and are important, but don't necessarily make any sort of income. And they actually are equating that with being in business, but they're not seeing the results of that as far as making it a sustainable income. So I think some people are actually confused because they didn't have a business background in the past where making money didn't require having anything to do with being online.
I guess this is that this point about the technician earlier on. They don't necessarily have to worry about the bread and butter in the door. They have a little bit of a cocoon within the business that says, this is what I do, and then the money aspect, I guess, is somebody else's problem. Whereas now, as a business owner, what do they say? The great part about being the boss is that you're the boss, but also the worst part about being the boss is that you're the boss.
I like that.
I see so many moving parts now. I guess there's a couple of different phases that I always think about: the planning phase, and then the implementation phase, and then there would be a checking phase, and then an improvement phase, and that's somewhat of a life cycle of how you possibly should run a business. How do you first determine whether or not you have a viable business idea, David?
Well, it brings me up to an example the other day. I had a friend who told me he had a good idea for a business. And I very quickly looked at it and I said, well, why don't you do A, B, and C to test it to see what the response would be? Because he had told me about this business idea for a couple months. And to me, logically, I don't really think that ideas are all that important. In fact, I have anywhere from 5 to 7 ideas a day. Sometimes I write them down. And at the end of a week, I might have 30 new ideas that I have and I have to look through them and say to myself, okay, out of these 30 new ideas, let's see if 3 of these can actually work, and let's see if at least one of them can profit and make an income. And my point is that a lot of people have these ideas that they think is the hard part. The hard part is not the idea, it's can you test it quickly and inexpensively. I have something called the HPLC method. It's called high profit, low cost. That's what HPLC stands for. And you need to find those in your business. In other words, where are the areas of your business where you can get the most bang for your buck with the lowest cost? And if you knew what those were, how could you do those over and over and over again so that those things could be the cash cow that always resulted in your business generating at least some sort of income while you're working on other things and other areas to see if those other areas also are also HPLC things as well? Because, I've found that if you can quickly test something in a way where it's going to result in at least some statistics for you, even if the statistics are, a short survey that you've done with 10 people, even if it was as simple as that, then at least you could start down the path of getting started on whether or not this is going to be a good thing for you or not. In my business of public speaking, for example, sometimes people will get up on stage and sell a product that they haven't even developed yet because they first want to see, do people care enough to buy this thing in the first place? And if they come out of an event with 8 or 10 sales or 15 sales, or maybe it's a big crowd like 1,000 people and they have 100 sales, then they got to know they got to hop on a flight, get back to home, and make sure that the product's great because they just sold it for $1,000.
Yeah, it's quite a could be a pressure filled situation, but I think that is
Right.
some great feedback and a takeaway for our My Future Business audience is to do that initial. Hey, look, I'm going to verify and validate this idea before I go and invest time, money, effort, and energy away from my family, whatever it is you need to do to bring this thing to life. So when we talk about this whole idea of getting this feedback, how do you do that? Do you personally do it from stage? Do you use online surveys, or how do you go about that process?
I've tried all the above, Rick, and it's I happen to, if you want to focus on just one aspect of what I do, let's say the education business has a high profit, low cost type of it's a high profit, low cost type of adventure because you're looking at it where you can sell something that's more about you're selling the information. What's the value of the information you're selling? So that the profit level is usually much more than it took you to actually create the information. It's more like you're just curating it together in an organized fashion, and you're using the experiences that you've had already to deliver something of value, and then you can deliver that in either an online product or a physical product. So going into it that if you can come up with something that makes sense like that, then the education aspect of it's going to be potentially a higher profit, lower cost type venture. So that's one example of one thing you can look into. It's always been considered, information products have always been considered a great thing to sell either online or offline or both. So for me personally, I try to test the waters by talking to former people that I've worked with already, people who were formerly students of mine, whether it was real estate investing, whether it was, time creation, outsourcing, going back to them and saying, hey, what are the challenges that you're having right now in your business? What would help you more? I have the ability also, Rick, to send out to my email list, who I've been curating now for a good 10 years, and send out to them surveys, asking them those same questions, and then also offering up products of other individuals in kind of an affiliate relationship and seeing which of these were the top sellers. So that gives me a feel and kind of puts my finger on the pulse of what's available right now and what people are saying they want to buy and what they're looking into. Because the markets that I'm in, real estate investing and things like that, they're changing and they're adapting, and things happen that are different, and we have to go out there and kind of keep our finger on the pulse and continue to adapt to those as well.
Fantastic feedback. When I was speaking with your executive assistant, he talked about your 5 principles that you use to get out of somewhat of a haze and get onto what matters. What are those principles?
That's great, and I appreciate you asking that, Rick, because these are things that I strive to implement every day, and one of those, and some of these are more simple in nature, but very few people, if not less than a majority, are able to consistently do this. And one of them is feeling rested so that you can create. And to do that, it usually requires that you get pretty good sleep on a consistent basis. Can you squeeze out 7, 8, 9 hours a night? Some of us need more than that. I know I mentioned in an article that LeBron James, the basketball player over here, he sometimes sleeps as much as 12 hours after a hard practice or a hard game. And, depending on what your role is and how physical of a job you might have, you might need more sleep. And some of us can rely on 5 or 6 hours, but the majority of us need 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep in order to feel creative the next day.
Yeah.
Because that worst feeling that you can have is just that feeling of, let me just get through this day so I can go back to sleep.
Yeah. Well, this I guess harks back to the idea of having that balance, doesn't it?
Right, and I guess that is a balance because if you look at the hours, I don't know if anybody on listening has ever done this, but I regularly look where I spend the hours in a week. I think you got 160 plus hours in a week, and I look at where I'm spending those hours, and I break it down into kind of a pie chart, and I always put out at least 9 hours times 7, 63 hours a week for sleeping. And I make that my duty to carve out that piece. So you're really playing, if you do that, you're really playing with more like 90 some hours in a week where your time is spent.
Yeah.
And, if you want to call it balance, I almost look at it like essential. I can't imagine going a week without at least exercising, I don't know, at least 20 minutes, 30 minutes in at least once every 2 days or so. I mean, to get that time and effort in. But I love to do things on my off time that take up hours and hours out of that pie chart, such as golfing, basketball. I like to hit the weight room. I like to spend a lot of time in that activity because I see that it increases my energy and keeps my mental standpoint in a high space. Like I really feel better about just life in general when I'm sweating and getting activity in my life.
And this is a big focus of my future business, David. We want to not only say, hey, look, these are the nuts and bolts and I guess the ideologies behind how to run a successful business, but a lot of times we do come back to looking after yourself and getting good hours of sleep and the right nutrition. So it's kind of interesting how it sort of goes in different directions, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't know how to separate the two because even at the time where I was in the mortgage business working those 12-hour days, I was still finding time to sleep, and I made it an important part of my day to eat as well as I could because I knew I wasn't giving a whole heck of a lot of time in my life to other things. So, I really don't know how you break up the two and you don't see them as one because I see a lot of these things as one because I hate it when I wake up in the morning and I just don't feel that good about I didn't get enough sleep. I don't feel that good about the day. I just want it to end. And that still occurs once in a while for me just because, a restless night, whatever it might be that led to you not having a lot of creativity. But stuff like that happens. So, I still try to see it all as one thing. And I harp that on my own life and I create that expectation for myself because it's very important.
So there are 5 principles. That would be one of them.
Right.
What is the next?
Number 2 is this one: under promise, but yet over deliver when you can. A lot of people want to move up in the world of business, let's say, for example, but they're not realizing how important the small things are. Let me give you a quick example. Rick, you and I had a chance to, you spoke to my assistant and we set this up and we now had a time for the call. Imagine I would have emailed you earlier today and said, hey, Rick, I need to reschedule. And then, we had a time for a call and I showed up late. And already you're thinking to yourself, I like this guy. He's funny, etc. But I just don't know how well I could trust him on something important like a business thing, because he can't even get a little podcast right.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize the importance of these decisions that they're making because other people have allowed them to get away with it in the past, and they think that it's normal. And I preach this to my students. I say, hey guys, we have a coaching call coming up 2 p.m. sharp. I'm going to be there right at 2 o'clock. And I assume that you guys will be, if not early, for that as well. So I set the expectation that this is important to me, and I hope that it's teaching them that it's not, oh, I'll show up 15 minutes late and I'll just jump on. I'm sure it wasn't missed. I mean, that mentality is not going to create trust with other people who might be on a higher level than you, and it might prevent you from expanding in business areas, and you might not even realize it.
That's fantastic feedback. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Because to you, it's just normal. But to other people, they're almost testing to see, all right, who can I trust? Because a lot of people at a higher level of business, they don't need to do a deal. They're doing it because they want to, or they feel like they want to expand in an area and they might need to work with some new people, but they don't need it in the same way that you, who might be hustling and, I need to pay my bills this month, but I also want to get this business started. You might need it more than they do.
Yeah.
But you're not acting in that way.
Yeah. Well, look.
So think about that.
I think we're of similar mindsets with this. Discipline. I was, I guess, exposed to discipline from my childhood, and my parents were what I refer to as firm but fair, and they were consistent, which was another big thing to discipline and setting those expectations. They're make and break decisions.
Oh, big time, because it's all about the feeling that the other person kind of has at the time when they need to make the decision. And if it's not quite right, they might just say, it didn't come together and I can't do business with you on this one. I'll catch you on the next one. But the reality was that they could have done it, but they just made the decision not to. And what I mean by under promise, over deliver, what I meant by that was I often try to under promise what I'll deliver to someone in terms of time. For example, if a private lender on a real estate deal, and let's say I have a contract with a private lender and he's expecting to get paid inside of 90 days, I love to deliver inside of 80 days and surprise him with a gift like, hey, we got the deal actually done earlier than we expected. Here's your check. It's 10 days early, and in fact, on top of that, I threw you an extra 2%.
Yeah, there's a nugget of gold.
Right. How quickly is that person? Because I took the time to understand my business model and understand that I really could squeeze in this deal into a shorter period of time. So I knew that through knowledge and through anticipation and through the things that I use as an entrepreneur, and I worked it into my equation. So when I told them 90 days, I knew it's probably going to take closer to 75. And when I got it paid on day 80 instead of 90, now all of a sudden he can't wait. He's asking me, hey, when can I lend you money again?
Yeah, this is all about positioning and understanding that it's the little things that often make the big difference.
Right.
So,
and if you throw into that, Rick, now all of a sudden your stress level is lower because you're operating in a different way. Lower stress equals higher creativity. And now all of a sudden, entrepreneurism does not seem so big of a pain in the butt. It seems more like, hey, I kind of like this thing because you're thinking with common sense. You're thinking with the things that we've gotten away from a little bit in society, the things that matter the most.
I think there's this element of the mindset again being that everybody that I interact with, it doesn't matter if they're paying for a product or service, it doesn't matter if they're a contractor, it doesn't matter if they're the plumber. Doesn't matter who it is that I interact with. I treat them as a customer, and the idea behind that is that everybody that I speak with is that they're serving me just as much as I'm serving them. So how can I help them to have a better day? And that's a lot of what my day is born by. For example, bringing our call forward today, giving you the opportunity to bring it forward. I mean, that's just the modus operandi that I live by, and I think it could be something that other people could value.
That's great stuff, Rick. And, with that perspective, it makes stuff so much easier, too, because when two people connect like that are thinking on that level, business is just a heck of a lot easier, and there's less mistrust and there's less it's not even the competitive nature. It's just two people working together trying to make something happen. And that's really my third principle. It's about implement systems that reduce stress.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that can reduce stress is what I just talked about a minute ago, where you really think things through and you under promise yet over deliver. But other things that can reduce stress in your business are knowing your weaknesses, for example. A lot of times we don't want to acknowledge what our weaknesses are because we sense that the other person might see that weakness as well. It's best if you just understand what your weaknesses are and then make extra precautions to go against that. I mean, if you know that you're weak with some area and it's going to take you a week where it might take another person 2 days, factor that in.
Yeah.
Because, it's only going to benefit you and you're going to feel less stress and you're going to feel good about it. If you're a public speaker and you need to drive to a location that's 2 hours away, but you need to be there 4 hours in advance so that you can prepare and take a look at the area that you're speaking in, plus you got to plan for traffic, take all these things into account and realize that you're not always on time, maybe when you go even to somewhere down the street. So start to look into ways in which you can take into account your weakest areas and plan for those and give yourself as much leeway in those areas by planning for it, and that's going to also reduce stress for you.
Wow, this is. I just had something come into my head there. You've heard the SWOT process, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I heard that. That was presented to me about 10 years ago by somebody, and that's a great thing. But rehash that for me because I haven't heard that in a while.
Yeah, look, like strengths being that what am I great at? What is the thing that I'm most driven by? I wake up in the morning, I'm energized by. So this is the whole question of how you realize your passion was in speaking, for example. And then
right.
on the flip side of that is weaknesses. What are my personal weaknesses? Well, I'm not great with online websites, or I'm not great with creating procedures, or whatever it is that you're not so good at. And then the opportunities is that things like today's call presents as an opportunity to create some sort of an ongoing relationship that could be mutually beneficial. And then finally there's threats. It might be your payment processes might be that you invoice rather than being paid up front. So I guess it's a way just to take a quick snapshot at all of those things.
I love it. I'm glad you rehashed that for me because I do remember that, and that's what it is. It's kind of a summary of some of the things we talked about tonight. So SWOT, SWOT with an OT.
Yeah, SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And just so everybody's aware, I will be having this call transcribed and made available in a post on the My Future Business website. It's syndicated through iTunes and a number of other places. So definitely feel free to share this call. Now, Principle 4, what's that all about?
Well, there's a couple of them out there, but one that's big right now for me is create systems that especially if you want to create income, because I want to focus on that because that seems to be a major issue for many people starting out in their business. Create systems that get your opportunity out there as much as possible. And what I've found is that many people, they have ideas, they have products, but they're not being presented as much or as often as they could be, or they're limited in the way in which they're being presented. Some people, as they start out in business, or even as they get further into it, they have an issue with selling. But in this environment that we're in with the internet, some of the systems in which you can sell don't always involve you picking up the phone. However, if you are talented as a phone salesperson, or you've had any sales background whatsoever, consider part of your day to go towards picking up the phone and making at least 5, 10, 15 sales calls to potential people whose business card you have from an event, people who responded or opted into a website of yours, people who came to a webinar and gave their information. Gather that information and consider picking up the phone, because a lot of people are not doing that, and that's making you different and separating you. And if that means that you need to brush up on some sales skills or do some Google searches on what are the techniques used in sales that can make you effective and have more persuasion skills, then that's an investment in your day that's important. Now, with the internet, though, you can also have ways in which people obviously opt into the website. That takes them through an email funnel. That email funnel does some of the selling by putting people in front of the opportunity to hop on a webinar that could sell the product. So if you have a pre-recorded webinar that's selling the product, also if it's taking them through a slower process whereby they're getting free software, free tips, free things that's enhancing the opportunity to work with you. In other words, it's setting you up to look even better before they have to make a sales decision. All of these things are part of the sales process. So that's, with the internet, it makes it also just as easy to put that out in front of people. And if you want to really hit it with both aspects, once they opt in, have a salesperson on your team, or even you personally, who's following up and saying, hey, I saw that you opted into the webinar. Did you get a chance to watch it till the end? Or, did you have any questions about the product? That just makes it even more effective, and you'll see that you're closing even at a higher rate that way. But in other words, my whole point, Rick, is just to say, make sure that people are getting enough opportunities to say yes or to say no to what you're offering, because that's usually a big deal, that they're just not getting even a chance or even aware of what they should be saying yes or no to. So you have to put it in front of them in different ways.
So this is that whole chicken egg thing. A lot of people that I've seen, they actually focus all of their effort, time and energy into creating this Taj Mahal of a system and a product. Where in actual fact the focus should be saying, like you were suggesting earlier, is that, hey, try and sell it without it even being in existence. It will save you a lot of heartache before you realize that this thing that you've polished to shine, nobody wants.
Right. That's really what would hurt your heart if that were the case. And sometimes if you're not used to selling, or you don't feel that it's a lot of people have developed negative thoughts about selling. But a friend of mine says it was a glorious day for fools when modesty became a virtue. What that means is that sometimes you have to believe in yourself the most in the beginning, especially, and until you gather 10, 15, 20 testimonials of other people that have had success with it, you're going to be your main testimonial. And you have to understand that you got to get the word out. And if you're passionate about it, that should subside any fear that you have of people saying no to you, or people looking at you as the guy that always has something to sell. Whatever it is that you've had as a negative stereotype that's been in your brain that has prevented you from taking your product to the next level, then find a way to get it through that. And it might just mean that you're not the person to sell it, but then you have to, invest time and money into people that can sell it, and give them the proper scripts and give them the ammunition so that they can sell it and work with that person. So there's got to be a way to get it done. And if you have passion about it, you'll find the way that works best for you.
Yeah, this is about adapting and never giving up. I heard once, and I don't know who said it, I can't recall, but they were talking about the more no's I get brings me one step closer to the yes I'm after.
Big time. Yep. I've heard that. I've heard that many times, and it's to me, that's so true. I live by that.
So number 5, I'm interested.
Okay. How about this one? And this might seem counterintuitive, but personal accountability equals freedom. And what I mean by that is this. There's a big rush towards being a victim. Once you decide to become an entrepreneur, you may have some things in your head that worked in the corporate world that will not work right now in the early stages of your entrepreneurial life, your business.
Yeah.
And that personal accountability thing, a lot of people look at and say, well, this sounds like it's more difficult or it's more challenging, or maybe can I squeeze my way out of this personal accountability, or the market got bad and therefore I had to quit my business idea and go back into the corporate world or my 9 to 5, whatever it is. Take accountability for it, enjoy it, and say to yourself, this is actually what's going to be my freedom.
Mm.
And that's so true for me because I know at the end of the day, I don't have to answer to anyone else. However, I do have other people in my business that I employ that I want to make sure that I'm answering to them because I want their perspective and their frame of mind to be up. So my personal accountability gives me the freedom to do the things that I do, which is have time freedom, which is to have decision-making freedom, which is to have the ability to wake up and decide, which is an incredible thing. But all of those come with the price of I have personal accountability, which I look forward to. I don't look at that as a negative thing, and I embrace it. In other words, whenever I feel like a victim in any way, shape, or form, and I think this was developed for me early, Rick, because I'm an athlete. I love basketball. I played college basketball, and it allowed me to realize that I can get better at these things, and I can understand and realize when I'm not thinking in the right frame of mind to be a successful entrepreneur, and I catch it. And I say, Dave, you're not the victim. Take on the responsibility. I know what just happened wasn't necessarily a positive, but you know what? There's a reason it happened. You got to take accountability for it, and that's freedom. That's what it is.
That's owning it, isn't it? I hear this.
There you go.
This notion about saying, look, it's easy to blame others, especially when you're embarrassed or feel somehow wronged. It takes a bigger person to say, look, everything that happens in my life, I'm responsible for. And if you're a parent, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. You think about the accountability and responsibility, and you go, this is all on me. This is a dependent, just like in some ways, I mean, it's not directly correlating, but employees or people that you hire could be considered dependents. They're dependent on you to do the right thing, to provide that leadership. And it's such an important part of your business.
Right, and we're being bombarded with messages that are anti that. If you go to like websites that do you have AOL.com in Australia?
We're aware of it. It's not very popular.
Okay, it's a popular website here, and every day there's messages on it. Like I saw one recently where it said, "Is the president making you fat?" In other words, because of the president creating stress in your life or something, I guess it raises cortisol levels or something, and it could lead to you becoming heavier or having more stress. Like when there's messages out there all over the internet, especially through advertising, if you're a victim mentality, you want to embrace those messages because that takes away the responsibility for you. And what this whole point of today's podcast is that we're being bombarded with stuff that doesn't matter and is not leading you to greater freedom. And it's all in the way that you perceive it. So if you can be smarter than the messages that are out there putting forth through your email inbox every day, through those social media things that you're supposed to pay attention through the websites that want to give you these messages, whatever it is, if you can be smarter than that stuff, and realize that your freedom is going to come through your own personal accountability. These are going to open up the ways in which you can perceive your business, and you're going to look forward to ignoring that stuff and laughing at it.
Yeah, focusing on what matters in your business, which is essentially the makeup of this call, isn't it?
There you go. You just hit the nail on the head.
David, I'm a richer man for having met you and having introduced you to our audience, and I would like to invite you back because we could talk for hours, and we've already been doing it for an hour, believe it or not. I've noticed on your website you have some downloads for them. One's called Outsource It All. Tell us briefly about that, and then we'll probably look to wrap up the call and invite you back if that's something we could do to talk about that.
That sounds great, Rick. And I'd like to leave everybody with a little message at the end of the call, if you don't mind, in the last 10 seconds or so. But as far as the downloads, you can go to riversofincome.com. And we've mentioned that website a couple times. And I encourage you, opt in.
Right.
Okay. You will get emails from me if you're listening. I do take the opportunity to use your email address as a chance to create a relationship. So You will receive opportunities to take a step further with me. Sometimes it's a baby step. Sometimes it's an offer from, someone else that I feel is good at what they do. And if you're in any way interested in entrepreneurial pursuits, time management, outsourcing your life, real estate investing, various topics along those lines, that's what I talk about in my emails. And for going there and offering up your email address, I'd like to give you the first 10 pages to my ebook, 101 Ways to Outsource Your Life and Business, which gives tips on not only things to do in your business to create time, but also in your personal life, because I balance the two together, and there's no way to escape the both of them. They're both in there for you. So go ahead, put the email address in, and get your first 10 pages to that book.
Fantastic. Can for people who are interested in buying the entire book, is there another option for them, or?
Yeah, they actually will be offered that through a future email. Okay. But if you just wanted to go grab the book without even getting the first 10 pages, you could go to 101.
Yep.
Just like the number 101 waystoutsource.com. 101 waystoutsource.com.
Excellent.
And it'll give you a chance to buy it right there.
And for everyone who's on the call, you will see down below there are links to all of these websites. There's nothing like a bit of link juice going around. So definitely take some time to go and see David and do that. Opt in. David's a professional. He will add value to your business. And I would just like to wrap that up and say thank you very much for your time on the call today, David. And I look forward to inviting you back.
Hey, Rick, I love that you give me that opportunity, and I like to entertain people as well, and I'm a fan of all types of music, so I'm going to leave them with a little 10-second rap, if you don't mind.
Sure thing. Let's do it.
I'm a rap star in my former life, so I leave them with this. Look me in the eyes, you can see where I've been, defeated every lie, and I battled every sin, because that's what I've been, and that's what I'm about, and we're about to make so many dollars we can't count. Join me.
That is awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you again, David, and I will speak with you again soon, my friend.
Had a lot of fun. Thanks, Rick.